Hello. Hello, RETROTHON. I'm GreenZSaber, and I'm going to be playing this little gem of a game for you all tonight. This is Kamen Rider Black Taiketsu Shadow Moon for the Famicom Disk System, and if you don't know what Kamen Rider is, think Power Rangers, except instead of 5 heroes, the main character is 1 hero, and the setting is essentially the same as a Power Rangers show where there's this evil empire and you're trying to defeat the evil empire and uses monsters. Now, I do have a quick fun fact for you all. This game is exactly 32 years old and 1 week old as of today. So could I get some happy birthdays or happy belated birthdays in chat? Because I don't think anybody has played this game, or most people have played this game, and unless you're in like a Kuso Grande fanatic, you probably have seen this game before. But that's where I've seen this game, or I was actually forced to play this game in Kuso Grande, so that's kind of how I found it. And I saw that nobody had done a run of this game, so I decided to give it a shot and see how well I could do, and this is the result. So this is help you appreciate how old this game is, and it kind of shows. But anyways, I'm gonna start this game and you all are in for a treat. So let's start. 3, 2, 1, go. And before we begin the actual game, we need to swap this, so I'm gonna do that. And we can get started. First off, to truly appreciate what this game is gonna be like, I'm gonna show you off what the controls are like and how this game plays. The way this game is laid out, there are stages. You go beat a boss, and you go on to another stage, beat another boss, and so on. Now, as you can see, Kamen Rider moves very, very slowly. This is his regular walk speed. He cannot run at all. He can do this jump move, he can jump up, he can do this backflip, he can do this somersault, but he can't run. He can do this roll move, and he can do a backflip, and that's about it. So how do we move quickly in this game? We do this move. It's a flying punch, and it is so much faster than walking, as you can see. And we're going to be doing this for most of the game, because yeah, that's just how this game works. So here's our first boss, and we're gonna be using we're gonna kick it once and then use this move called Power Strike, which is only available during boss fights. And that's it. That's our first boss. So Power Stripes is a move that you can use. It's kind of like a super move on most beat 'em ups, where you sacrifice a bit of your health to do a very damaging move. In this case, it deals damage to a boss no matter what, and it ignores invincibility frames. So I want to kick the boss first before I do Power Stripes, because enemies and you are invulnerable when they're in their knockdown animation. So here's the next boss, a cheetah. We're going to do the same thing, kick it once and then do Power Strikes 3 times. And then kick it again, if I can reach it. Alright. So sometimes bosses can be stubborn like that. You can see how awkward it is to reach enemies in this game, because they move so much faster than you do. And one thing about this game is you need to maintain a high amount of health in between stages and bosses, because bosses, you want to be able to use Power Stripes 3 times, and like I said before, you can only use Power Stripes when you have at least half your health, and which means I cannot take more than 3 bars of damage to be able to use Power Stripes. So I'm using this backflip move because as you can see, the corridors are the height of the corridor is too low. And here's the pig Gorgon. We're just gonna kick it once and then do the power stripes move and then kick it again and it's done. Also, one thing I should mention is before every time you beat the boss, you must move to the right side of the screen as soon as possible. Otherwise, your Kamen Rider will be forced to walk all the way to the right side of the screen, and we do not want that whatsoever. Now that we've beaten 3 of these bosses, we can fight the big boss battle. It's kind of like the Megazord battles in Power Rangers game, the TV show, except you yourself are the Megazord. So this boss is pretty simple. He's gonna try to kiss you, and we don't want to kiss. We don't want to get kissed by this boss, so we're just gonna kick him in response and just keep doing that until he dies. No challenge whatsoever. Now we're gonna get a change of scenery. We were in a grounded level at first. Now we're gonna go to a desert area and we're gonna be on a bike for that. So Kamen means mask in Japanese, just so you know. Now here's the bike controls. As you can see, the bike moves fairly fast. It doesn't move as slowly as you do, hopefully, because I mean it is a bike after all. So this bluish stuff on the ground slows you when you're on it, so I don't want to be on it. I want to just jump as soon as I land on it. And so here's one thing about the bike: if it hits a wall, you just come flying out and land on the ground, and you're back onto the bike. Also, falling doesn't kill you in this game. You just lose 1 bar of health, which isn't too big of a deal. But here's the first of the bike bosses, the lizard Gorgon. We just want to use power straps and then punch it like 3 times and it's done. Now, you notice I'm not kicking the boss. Kicking does 3 bars of health, while punch does 2 bars of health. The reason I'm not kicking is because we can't kick while we're on a bike. I guess that makes sense. Have you ever tried kicking on a bike before? So for this stage, it's almost like the other stages, except we have to traverse this narrow corridor. There are going to be some rocks and lizards that we have to punch, which is not a big deal. So interestingly enough, Kamen Rider's punch can break rocks. So here's okay, I totally missed that. You can like ram your bike onto the bosses and it'll damage them. Let me just see if I can do that here. Okay, so there we go. I just smushed the boss with my bike and it died. So now we're gonna see these monster hands that are coming out the ground trying to grab you. They don't actually like grope you or anything, they just do some damage. Interestingly enough, regular enemies don't do a lot of damage in this game. They just it's just that you don't have very many invincibility frames, so it is possible to just get damage continuously if you're in something that damages you for too long. That's kind of why this game can be kind of tricky to play. So here's the next boss, Sombrero Guy. Sombrero Guy's gonna get hit with a sucker punch, and then we're gonna do the power stripes, then we're gonna punch him 2 more times, and okay, got away, but 1 more punch and that takes care of Sombrero Guy. So we're gonna fight the next giant boss, which is a Rhino. You might be wondering, why didn't we use the power stripes on the first giant boss? That's because we don't have power stripes. for big boss battles. Instead, we get the ability to charge our super moves, so to speak, which are basically our aerial moves. So I'm going to do that right now. We're going to charge up our flying punch, and we're going to move a few steps forwards, and then we're going to hopefully hit this boss with our flying punch. Oh, look at that. You can see how much damage that did. And then we just kick it a few times, and that's it. That's the end of the Rhino boss. Pretty straightforward, as long as you can land your punch. That's the hard part. Thankfully, it is pretty consistent. So for the giant bosses, they don't have a... They have a very interesting hitbox. The Rhino boss actually has a hitbox at the very back of it. So if you hit it anywhere else, you're not going to do any damage to it. You must hit it at the very, very back. So here's the next stage, a forest. Forests have birds in it, and birds are jerks in most NES games. This one is no exception. We're going to try to avoid touching as many birds as possible because they will knock us down. And we don't want that for obvious reasons, but sometimes it can't be helped, like that and that. So we're just going to do our flying punch strategy throughout this stage and hope we don't get hit too much. And now we're going to face the next boss, the eagle. The eagle's going to be immediately met with a flying punch to the face, and then we're going to kick it before it tries to fly away. And that's that. So this next stage is very interesting. This is the worm. The worm is one of the most annoying enemies in the game because it can chain stun lock you like that, and when you destroy it, it will spawn this little fly that can also damage you like that. So as you can see, this is not a very good setup right now. You can see the quality game design right here. So unfortunately I don't have enough health to use 3 power stripes anymore, so we're gonna have to make do with what we have here. So I'm gonna try to beat this boss without getting hit too much. Okay, so here's the next boss, the mosquito. The mosquito is pretty annoying compared to the regular bosses because he can do 3 bars of health to you. Bar of health. So thankfully we did beat it without taking too many hits from the boss, which usually I did find out a strat today that allowed me to get through the that previous too many hits, but I messed up my positioning a little bit. Or actually the worm RNG didn't cooperate with me. So this is where we're forced to walk. And as you can see, the walk is very, very slow, and these flies are RNG. Fortunately, or the bees. Fortunately, we didn't get too many bees. Sometimes it can get really, really bad, and you can get completely swarmed with the bees and just knocked down continuously, and you won't have enough health to fight this boss, the queen bee. We're just gonna kick the queen bee and power stripes, and then use the kick on it a couple times. Hopefully, alright. I'm just gonna wait for this guy to come down, then that's it. One thing I will give props to this game for, it doesn't really reuse boss models, sprites, or attacks. They at least have some good amount of variety. It's just the controls are not that good. So here's the next boss, the giant turtle. I'm going to charge up my punch and then immediately throw a flying punch at it. Oh, look at that! See, you can zap over half its health and just kick it a couple times and it's gonna do its shell move. Now this move is completely RNG. It can it can take forever for this move to finish, and unfortunately he ended up too close to me, so I was not able to kick it a couple times to finish it off. As you can see right there, this move can last a while, but eventually it will come down and we can finish him off. So that's the third stage. That was the hardest stage in the game, actually, and I'm glad we got through that without any problems. Now we're gonna go to another bike section. This time we're going to the ocean. We're gonna fight a bunch of sea gorgons. Now the most threatening thing about this stage is those things that pop out of the water, because they can damage you multiple times and you won't have enough health to use power stripes 3 times on the boss. As I mentioned before, you want to have at least... you want to take no more than 3 bars of damage coming into the boss so you can use 3 power stripes. Because, especially for this boss, because this boss loves to stay underwater. Oh my god, the tournament animation is so slow. Okay, so here's the first boss, the merman. He's gonna dive in the water, jump up, and we're gonna immediately ram our bike into him, and then we're just gonna do a little loop on him. He's gonna go in the direction that you were at, so you just go back and then turn around and jump and ram your bike into him and rinse and repeat. Wow. I don't know if he can do that in the show, but in this game he can. There's no like oxygen meter or anything that you have to keep track of. Thank God. Can you imagine this if this game had like an oxygen meter with these controls and you had to like get bubbles that pop out of the screen from time to time? That would be I don't even want to think about that. So in this section, there are some points in this stage where we're gonna take some unavoidable damage just because these sea anemones are too low to destroy with a punch. And this orange stuff, it will slow you down just like the bluish stuff in the other bike stage. So here's the next boss. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but we're just gonna try to... Okay, I'm gonna hit it and then we're gonna loop it. So here's the loop. You just turn around and then like jump, ram your bike into it repeatedly. Oh, here's another thing about this game. When you get hit, you go into this little stun animation, and you cannot do anything whatsoever as long as this stun animation is in progress. So that crab at the very beginning can be a bit of a troll and like hit you. Also, you can't punch it to death because it's too low. And actually, it's actually because the bubbles it'll shoot like some bubbles at you, and you can't. You pretty much have to take the hit before you like want to punch it, and that's a bit too slow. So sometimes it can go right, and it can go completely off screen, but you know that's just the way this game goes. But we're past that part, and we're just gonna try to dodge the bubbles and the things that pop out of the water, and then we're gonna go to the next boss, the lobster boss. We're gonna punch it, do some power stripes on it, then I'm gonna try to establish a little loop on it. So hit it, punch it, go back a little bit, and then turn back, then punch it again. And that's the end of that gauntlet of 3 bosses. Now we're gonna go to what is probably the most dangerous part of the run. Thankfully it's fairly short. That's this stage is actually why the estimate is fairly high. The evil lords, as you can see, they actually have names, which means they are probably a force to be reckoned with. Now we're gonna face our first evil lord. He's kind of a pushover, because I guess he's sort of a warm-up for what is to come. So we're gonna charge 2 of our special moves, the super slap. We're gonna slap him, and then we're gonna punch him. Then we're just gonna hit him a couple times, and then he should die as long as we don't get knocked down too much. So finally cooperated. They can also do this little teleport move, which is kind of annoying, but thankfully this guy isn't too threatening. This is the this next boss is why this stage is so dangerous. So I'm only gonna charge 1 super move because you only get 1 shot at the super move, since you do have to sacrifice your HP to use it. If you miss it, then that's too bad. If you try to hit them with another flying punch, you won't do the critical damage. So as you can see, this guy is why these evil lords are a huge threat. They can just chain this flashing move whenever they feel like it, and you can see how much damage it does to you. And there's nothing you can do about it if the evil lord ends up in the middle of the screen, because you can dodge it if you're far enough away from the evil lord, but not if they're in the middle of the screen. So here's the last evil lord. We're gonna use a flying punch on it, and then we're just gonna try to kick it, play it a little safe, because dying to any of these guys means you have to fight all of them all over again. We don't really want that, or do we? But at any rate, oh, look at that! This evil lord can freeze you, and he just happened to freeze me in a place where he was gonna warp, which is hilarious. Alright, so we're gonna do this swap. So here's the last battle against Shadow Moon. Now, those evil lords were kind of tough, right? You might expect this last battle to be very tough. So let's see what Shadow Moon is like. So as it turns out, Shadow Moon is actually your evil twin! Now, you might think this evil twin might be a better version of you, right? He might have like some lasers or something, eye beams. As it turns out, this guy's actually an exact copy of you. Okay, looks like he's comboing me. That hasn't happened before, unfortunately. Okay, so you can establish this loop where if you just kick him when you're in the corner, you can just force him to backflip like that, and eventually you'll kill him, and that's time. So as you can see, despite that little setback, we were able to defeat him through our own cheese. And now we get to see the ending. I do have one little thing to show after this, so brace yourself. So we gotta see what this ending is like first, then I'll show this one thing. Ryder triumphed over him, but who was really Shadow Moon ... To be continued. And that's the ending. Now, this game actually has another ending, as a matter of fact. So let me load this save state. There are two endings to this game. One is where you beat the boss, and there's another one where you lose to the boss. I've actually never lost to this boss in... Like, even on my first time through, I was able to defeat this boss, so it would have been kind of embarrassing if I lost to it the first time around. So... Oh, wow, I didn't even see him do an attack. I got hit somehow. I guess he just happened to like line up perfectly where he could like combo me to death that one time. So now we lost to him, and let's see what happens. So he takes your little crystal thing. You take his little crystal thing when you beat him, and then he takes your little crystal thing when he beats you. So let's see what happens to it. So we get this ending when you lose. The earth was knocked down to Gorgum ... And that's the bad ending. So as you can see, if you, regardless of what happens, you cannot continue. You cannot redo this fight. You only get one try at it, and so either way, you get an ending. And that's Kamen Rider Black, Taiketsu Shadow Moon. Thanks for having me, RETROTHON. It was a pleasure doing this, and please enjoy the rest of the marathon. I'm going to do the same, and hopefully you have a good rest of your day, everybody.